Let's check the slug market. Hey guys, I guess you probably heard the big news, huh? Yeah, I'm going out of business here, I guess. Just hasn't been the same, you know, what with the stars fading out and stuff. Anyways, just wanted to say you guys are great, and I'm sure gonna miss having you guys as customers and all of that. I got some good news too, though. All my stuff, it's on sale now, and I'll throw a little extra there, just for you, okay? So, enjoy, and maybe I'll see you guys around, okay? 5% off. 5% off? Oh, you're such a cheap motherfucker. You dirty, cheap bastard. Alright. Maybe I'll put some quickness into Bertrude. How do I use it? Drag into a talisman. Okay. And the other one's Hope, is it? We'll use that on Bertrude as well. Why not? She's quite low in these affairs. The start of a round briefly gain infinite stamina. That's really good. Yeah, maybe I'll put the rings on them. Yeah, right. That'll do. They didn't buy nothing, Dad. Because it's still too expensive. 5% off ain't shit to me. You gained the summon of Mount Elodial for the 7th time. Very few stars remain above to light your way as you await the commencement of the final liberation rite. The Lone Minstrel finds you clutching the Book of Rites, seeking there perhaps a bit of wisdom that has eluded you thus far. Reader, we may not have a chance to speak again. After this, I may have to go. I wish to say that I'm grateful for having made your acquaintance, and I shall remember you with fondness. I wish you well, this night and always. Go forth with glory. Then he looks up and extends his hand in friendship. You clasp it. You see Volfred has joined you. All of your companions are there with him, in fact. It is strange for me to say, given the circumstances of our meeting, reader, but it has truly been a pleasure. Onward now. Let us achieve our plan. Reading one, thou art both wiser and less irritating than most others of thy kind. We have learned something from thee and we are grateful. Master Reader, it has been this night's greatest honor to have served with you. Let this be our most glorious stand yet. Caesar wants you to know that he has the utmost faith in you. You look upon your fellow exiles, your companions, with whom you have withstood the downside, and with whom you shall now conduct this final rite. Begging your pardon, but my time has come. We shall see each other soon. He departs. After this night, the outcome of Volfred's plan, the plan of which you have all been a part, shall be decided one way or another. For now, all you can do is strive to prevail against your final adversaries, so that one last companion may go free. You rise to join your fellow exiles and the last remaining stars ignite. The stars join us! This is going to be a long episode. Like, super long. But this is it. Our final liberation rite, our last stand, our last game. We have to get Gilman free then. He's earned it more than anyone.
Look, for one last time, upon the fall of Solium, dear reader. Hear me for one last time. For soon, the few remaining stars shall fade away, leaving you stranded there for your remaining days in that forsaken land where you deserve to be. The rabble that you roused here in the Commonwealth shall be put down. The exiles whom you liberated all shall fall in line. But first, let us get on with this last liberation rite. You face none other than yourselves. Each so unlike the glorious Nightwings of yore. 'Tis a shame that one of you shall soon be free, for you deserve each other.
You're a dick. The pyres burn and each of the triumvirants is present and prepared. But before the Lone Minstrel can concur as per the custom. Not another word! The demon Aurelek slowly raises his clawed finger to his mask. The false Nightwings have arrived at last. Long have I awaited this. My freedom once was stolen from me. Then I was cheated of it here upon this mountaintop. You may now attempt to take it from me once more. He stands there for a moment silent then. Aurelek dons his mask and stands prepared. May these damn rites cease forever for the misery which they caused. Plus 40, Jesus. Nightwings, we shall not meet again after tonight, for the cycle of the rites is all but ended. Thus, I would have your decision on whose behalf should you conduct this final liberation rite. The one whom you anoint, or else the exile Aurelek shall be returned. Godspeed, reader. You know what is at stake better than I. I have the utmost faith in you, to make the best decision and conduct this rite with glory. Nightwings, the star's remaining light grows dim. Your decision, please. It is time to choose who, if anyone among you, shall go free this last time. The rest of you shall remain in the downside to the end of your days. One by one you meet the gazes of each of your fellow exiles. Bertrude, Bolfred, Sir Gilman, Tizo. Your fellow exiles, your companions, your friends. Together you have come this far, but now the downside and the rights conspire to tear your group apart and disrupt your plan. Is there no other way? There's no turning back. But with a glance you reassure your fellow exiles that you know what to do.
One final opportunity for salvation. Too bad for the rest of you. Sir Gilman.
What has this knight done, that he should warrant a courtesy as this? Know that he shall strive with all his heart. Your choice is cast. As for your other companions, you sense a clarity of thought and purpose at each of them. They stand ready to support Sir Gilman, as well as you.
Who shall be at his side? Bertrude.
Thy will is ours, reading one. Let the remaining stars shed their light upon our ceremony here. Tizo is ready to do whatever it takes to see Sir Gilman regain his freedom this night.
The choice is cast.
Those are to be my adversaries then? And who is it, I wonder, who asserts his will over that group? You sense Aurelek is searching for you, almost reaching out to you. You, the shadow of the false Nightwings. They are nothing to me, but you who would relinquish your own liberty for the sake of them. Strange. It is fitting then that I should have to face one such as you. Then Aurelek stands at the ready, signaling for his two allies to do the same. By the light of dawn, the cycle of the rites shall cease. Let us see if we can finish this ordeal before that time. The sky above begins to shudder. The final liberation rite is about to commence. Farik, I am prepared, Celeste. Then let our song this evening shake the stars themselves. Aye, Celeste, let us make sure of it. Here we go. This is gonna be hard. Tizo? Tizo fumbles with his mask. Tizo recognizes Aurelek and greets him tentatively. It is good to see you. Aurelek reaches for his mask in turn. How is the horn mended? Tizo indicates his horn has not bothered him for a long time now, and thanks Aurelek for it. Good. A full recovery then. But it is unfortunate to see you standing there with them, Tizo. Come with us. No questions asked. The proposition seems to catch Tizo off guard. Tizo indicates he will not abandon his friends or their quest. He seems to be pleading with Aurelek to stand down, to listen, to not give in to anger. But Aurelek shakes his head. He puts his mask back on. This is something I must do, little one. Tizo dons his mask in turn. He chirps, nothing more.
Begin. The final chance at liberation for the age.
No! Oh, we had it. No! Oh, fucking Jesus. Yes! Holy fuck, this is gonna be hard as shit. I didn't know it was gonna be this difficult. No! The sky rains ash, soon your pyre's own shall mingle with them. Just then, the skies above begin to rain down fire, the final throes of the cycle of rites, and the ending of the age. Killed our whole group? Nice. Man, we're gonna have to do better than that if we want to win, though. Fuck.
Good.
There we go.
Lately done.
Man, it's gonna take a lot to take that pyre out. It's so strong. Shit!
Thanks for Gilman.
Nice.
The Night somehow did it.
Come on, Gilman. This is for your freedom, son.
The Nightwings edge closer to victory.
No! Fucking had it.
The orbs unclaimed again.
Go, 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 go. There we go.
Did it.
He's actually pretty quick when he's hopping about. Nice.
Exactly by the book.
Here we go. We're starting to dominate now. So the false Nightwings bear their fangs at last. But that cannot be your finest effort. You think you deserve your freedom more than I? Then fight for it, damn you.
How he has
That's what we're doing, fool.
changed that Warlick.
Oh shit.
Old and bitter though these many years.
Fuck.
Alas,
That wasn't good.
you haven't.
Done.
Remember everything that you hold dear.
The demon's so hard to get around. That's the problem. Fuck you. I'll kill you all. God damn. Not good.
Warlick threw it in.
Come on, we gotta win this. All of you, you shall rot here. You shall rot as I have. All these many years, you false Nightwings. You who would deny me once again my rightful liberty. You who deny that liberty to all the triumvirates you face and vanquish under the guise of the traditions of those blasted scribes. Come, let us continue with this glorious affair. Yoink. Shit. Go. Nice. Fuck, this is gonna be close, man. This is nearly an hour-long episode now. Orlick stands breathing heavily. He looks back on the thin lick of flame that is smouldering pyre before turning his attention back to your triumvirate. It's go time. Shit. Boom. Tizo's pretty good, man. Oh, shit. You're pretty fast for a big, chunky bastard. Oh, what a shot. Skills, bruh. Oh, fuck! Dude, that was ruthless. Gotta give him props for that one. That was nasty. Oh shit, did I jump over it? Don't know what happened there. Go! Oh! Go, Tizo. No! I hit the fly button. Come on, we land this one, we win. It's that simple. Shit. Yes! Ah, we did it.
Nightwings proved their worth.
Fuck, that was a mish.
Rather convincingly, I must admit.
Whew.
Thus ends the liberation rite. And thus, the scribes have chosen.
Can it truly be? This night and all of us, we have indeed prevailed? You look upon Sir Gilman, for what you expect shall be the last time you see each other. Any moment now the Shimmer Pool shall engulf him. Any moment now, he shall return to glory and join with Volfra's agents in the Commonwealth to help achieve the plan. Any moment now the cycle of the rites shall end, until at least the dawn of a new age. Any moment now.
And thus, the scribes have chosen.
Oh no, Gilman.
And thus, the scribes have chosen. And thus, the scribes have chosen. No.
It's too late.
Wings. Reader, what have you done?
This night is beginning to feel extraordinarily uneasy about things here. Each prior time upon the fall of Salayam, the Shimmer Pool was opened, following the liberation rite and taken in whichever exile prevailed. But now all is still and the light of the stars above has all but died. You sense a growing fear that it is already too late, that the Shimmer Pool shall not reveal itself again. Aurelic approaches, his head bowed. The 8 scribes saved their greatest treachery for last. Then something else catches his notice. Wait! A sudden rush of starlight cascades through the stillness of the summit. The Shimmer Pool has appeared again, different somehow, but open. Sir Gilman looks upon it, but it does not engulf him, or at least not yet. It seems I was mistaken then. The 8 scribes, this is not their greatest treachery. It is their greatest jest. The Shimmer Pool is flung wide open. It seems that all are worthy now of freedom. Aurelic strides towards the Shimmer Pool, but... Halt, Aurelic! Aurelic glances over at the low minstrel, almost in surprise. The Shimmer Pool has lost most of its strength. You step inside and you shall surely drown. Of that I can assure you. He laughs to himself at this. Then we have all been cheated! No, the Shimmer Pool is revealed, and one of you must still return as planned. But as for who returns, shall have to be chosen ere the last light of the stars is extinguished and the rites cease to be. This is the final trial of the scribes. The final trial of the scribes? Then our confrontation, the liberation rite, it was all meaningless. No, the victor of the confrontation is to be the one to make the choice among those closest to the scribes, either the anointed or he who anointed them. So then this night he can return, although perhaps the Master Reader can return instead. Aye, it shall be either you or the Reader, or... It shall be either or... Sir Gilman, please make your decision quickly, lest it be forfeit. I do not know how much longer the light of the stars shall offer you this gift. Good minstrel! Why, the choice you present unto this night is very simple then. Master Reader, this night hereby declares you shall be free! Sir Gilman wishes to give up his freedom so that you may regain yours. Very well. Reader, sir, the choice which Sir Gilman made, or rather, the choice which he gave, it is now yours to make instead. This choice, it may keep bouncing back and forth like this? Absurd! It may, until such time of you is willing to accept the burden and the outcome of the choice. That is the trial, and I fear there is little time remaining now. Reader, if you and your companion are too cordial with each other to accept the freedom, either one of you, then I shall gladly take it. Freedom ought to be more than some flirtatious trifle to exchange. Reader, what is your will? Gilman. You are decided. You have chosen Sir Gilman. He looks at you with some astonishment. Sir Gilman, sir, do you accept the reader's choice, or shall you make another? Then this knight hereby accepts. Though such a gift is too much, good master reader, it is too much. Then it is done. You see a look of genuine surprise flash across Sir Gilman's face, and then he is gone. You gave a chance at freedom so that Sir Gilman may yet have his. May he return in glory.
Godspeed, Sir Gilman. By the scribes, no stars remain aloft. The cycle of the rites. It is finished. The Commonwealth. What shall become of it? What shall become of us? Nightwings. The opportunity to gain your freedom from the downside. Was it not enough?
Well, that's it, huh? What's happening now? It's pretty. Good old Sir Gilman. That night, the exiled Sir Gilman returned to the Commonwealth. He was to be the last. The stars had faded and the cycle of the rites had run its course. He found the Commonwealth in great upheaval. Spurred by the efforts of 5 liberated exiles, Volfred Sandalwood's revolutionary plan had incited the masses. These exiles in the starless sky portended the return of the scribes. The people surged into the streets shoulder to shoulder. Led by the 5 exiles, their voices shook the heavens. The leadership of the Commonwealth panicked. No blood was shed that night, and by dawn it was over. The leaders of the Commonwealth had cast themselves back into exile, or joined in this new cause. Thus, in its 838th year, the Commonwealth had fallen. The new Saurian Union declared its sovereignty in the next year. Among the changes its elected leaders ushered in, they vowed never to cast people into exile, and they abolished the old Commonwealth decree forbidding literacy. Today we still remember all of this. And we remember the exiles of the downside whose deeds led to the dawning of our age, whether they returned or not. What is this? What do we do here? After her liberation, Jadariel soon became an icon of the movement that led to the collapse of the Commonwealth and the rise of the Saurian Union. Her horns and stern countenance inspired the people to believe that she was solely a Mer reborn. She became a great, if reluctant, leader. In the uncertain times that followed, Jadariel's seasoned expertise often came into play, both in matters of security and of state. For instance, she conscripted and trained a team of volunteers in public safety. The community did not know what to make of such a cordial bunch at first, but soon gained to value their service. They have stood for the people ever since, and we celebrate their founding day each year. She remained close to Hedwyn all throughout the experience, and they supported each other through their struggles many, many times. She kept an eye on Faye, who nonetheless demonstrated a surprising knack to get by on her own, though Jadariel was always willing to provide some assistance, just in case. She never settled down with anyone, although from time to time she thought about Ignarius despite herself. She continued training on her own, a regime that grew stricter with each passing year. There were those who sought to train with her, and she sometimes obliged. There remained one other constant in her life. She would always remember her days among the Nightwings, and with fondness for the most part. Oh wow, this is going to take ages. After the cycle of the rites ceased turning, the lone minstrel bade the remaining Nightwings to take the Black Wagon and seek their fortunes elsewhere in the downside. Their parting was heartfelt but brief. He remained there at the summit of Mount Elodia with Celeste. The two of them would chronicle the final outcome of the cycle. Neither Tariq nor Celeste were ever seen again. We know all this through a song attributed to them. Some claim these songs originated in the taverns of the Saurian Union and merely were imbued with weight of folklore. However, the exiles liberated from the downside corroborated each other's claims at having met the duo that presided over the liberation rites. Another folktale suggests these minstrels were heralds of the scribes. Having fulfilled their obligations, they departed the world we know and rejoined their patrons. One of their famous songs describes another, simpler outcome, that two gave up their duties and the rights to favour a life that they could share together. In any case, they are likely to remain the subject of such verses and such songs, for it was they who watched over the rites and ushered in our times. let's do these two. With the rights drawn to a close, the slug market's revenues fell precipitously, and Falcon Ron was forced to liquidate his assets and close up shop. Yet as is sometimes the case with those of entrepreneurial learning, this time of hardship led to an epiphany, or at least a sudden change of fortune. One day Falcon Ron had a run-in with a messenger imp bearing news from the other side. Ron gave it to one of his remaining trinkets, which could not be sold. The following week, the messenger imp returned to him bearing a tidy sum of wealth and newly minted coinage from the Sarian Union. Falcon Ron cut a long-term deal with the messenger imp there and then. Through his trade remained a grey area from legal standpoint in the Sarian Union, the newfound fame of the downside caused Falcon Ron's goods to explode in popularity. He later signed an elaborate agreement with Big Bertrude's and found a distribution partner on the other side through Rookie Greentail, whose own business had expanded. Especially in the Sarian Union, Falcon Ron's goods are still known for their superior quality, though he assumes no liability for any side effects. Nice. Who else have we got? I want to know about Gilman. When the worm Gilman returned to the Commonwealth, he believed that he had regained something more important than his freedom, his honour. Gilman relinquished his knighthood and declined any opportunity to serve as a captain on the Blood Border. He was not interested in fighting any longer. Yet as is sometimes the case for those such as he, a circumstance soon came about in which there came a need for him once again to make use of his military training. Thankfully, however, the scribe's return ended peaceably. Gilman was on the edge throughout that night, expecting violence to erupt at any moment. But the moment never came. When the matter was at last put to rest, then Gilman truly knew, that his time as a knight had ended. He declared to all those in earshot that he would never fight again. Unless, of course, there arose some other extraordinary set of circumstances, again requiring him to fight, but he certainly hoped not. He still trained regularly just in case, especially with his fleet-footed friend Rookie Greentail. He was always grateful for having studied under the reader of the Nightwings, without whom he would never have completed his penance. Because of this, and perhaps because he was on the opposite side of the world now, Gilman dedicated his life to him. By that point, he had long forgotten about his days under the leadership of Sir Deluge, his former commander. Breaking free of his abusive leadership was the first step towards gaining a bit of self-respect. Gilman never did return to his homeland of the Sea Dominion, and was content to lead a monastic life on a small residence in the hills. It was just high up enough to make him keep striving to conquer his fear of heights. Other than that, an intense daily training regime and the occasional visit from an old companion was more than enough to keep him optimistic and engaged. He knew by then that honour was not something to be won, but a contract with oneself to be renewed each day. Oh, that's nice. Hedwyn. After his liberation, Hedwyn was instrumental in the events leading to the fall of the Commonwealth. He was vital in the outcome of the plan. The peaceful outcome of the scribe's return was attributed to several key factors. One of them was the underlying ambition of the plan itself. Another was Hedwyn's visibility among the people in the streets. Identified to be a liberated exile, he was believed to be Golgothinian reborn. More importantly, however, was that one of the winged harps of the High Ring remnants accompanied him. She was later identified as Fikani Shang. Their bond was symbolic of what was at stake that night, and proved vital to the peace that followed. In all his days as leader in the Sarian Union, Hedwyn oft confided in his friend Jadariel. Despite her intense manner, there was no one whom he trusted more in the times when circumspection was required. Hedwyn would often think back about the vow he made at the beginning of his quest for freedom, and although he cherished all the friendships he made, he had pledged Jadariel, Rookie Greentail, and the Reader of the Nightwings that they might all be free again together. He had broken that vow, for in the end not all of them were able to return. A terrible guilt over this darkened his mood for a time. However, the others whom he still knew lifted his spirits, much like he had often lifted theirs. All of the Nightwings knew the stakes. While the others who stood with the Nightwings were not able to remain in contact thus, Hedwyn thought of each of them often, and so, in turn, did they oft think of him. Rookie. After Rookie Greentail earned back his freedom, he returned to a lavish welcome ceremony in the Commonwealth, as was the tendency for liberated exiles. It was everything he could have hoped for, and soon he was well off, surrounded by luxury and choosing between various exciting opportunities. However, he must have given in to his better judgment, as he did end up siding with Volfred Sandalwood's revolutionary forces as he promised. On the night of the scribe's return, Greentail was there with the others, inspiring the masses. He never looked prouder, the very image of Yormir Manymane himself. When dawn finally came, it became clear that the Commonwealth that everyone knew would be no more. He realized that many new opportunities awaited. He began quite a lucrative career for himself, manufacturing and selling replica merchandise inspired by the downside. His main struggle was to meet demand. An aspect of his conscience cautioned him against making light of such a thing, but the money was too good, and soon his family was well off, as he always said. One of his orders of business was to seek out one of his old companions, Pamitha Thane, to whom he took a liking during their quest for freedom. They bonded further over love of drink and supported one another through uncertain times that lay in store. He also kept in close touch with Gilman, ever the perfect practice partner. They would train together often, taking care to stay in tip-top shape as much as possible throughout the years. Greentail always did the best to keep in touch with all his many friends, and knew that he owed his fortunes to them. He made a special point of staying close with the group of friends he came to know so well during his time with the Nightwings, wherever they were. They shared a special understanding that put even Greentail at a loss for words sometimes. After regaining her freedom, Pamitha Thane found herself in a difficult position. Having once betrayed her people of the Highwing Remnants, she knew that she would not be welcome in her native home. She didn't trust the Commonwealth either. Instead, she found her place among Volfred Sandalwood's agents, who were busy doing their part to fulfill the plan. As it turned out, the plan was a success. Pamitha Thane stood shoulder to shoulder with her other fellow former exiles, and truly, they were a sight to behold. A disturbing rumour later spread that night, the Highwing Remnants were slated to mount an assault, which for some reason never came to pass. Pamitha denied any knowledge or involvement. Afterward, Pamitha played an active part in negotiating terms between the Highwing Remnants and the new nation that would become our Sarian Union. Her previous attempt at something of the sort led to her exile. She must have felt some satisfaction to succeed this time around. Sometime later, Pamitha had an unexpected run-in with Rookie Groomtail, with whom she had spent a fair amount of time while travelling with the Nightwings. Under these new set of circumstances, it turned out the two had more to talk about, and rather more in common. They would often put to test which one was able to outdrink the other. It is unclear as to which one of them prevailed in that contest in the end. One day, Pamitha received an invitation to return to the Highwing Remnants, where she was to be fully pardoned. That was when she ran into her blood sister, Tamitha, for the first time since their exile. Their reunion was not as amicable as Pamitha might have hoped, and Tamitha was still resentful of their history together turned violent. Pamitha would later brush aside the incident, though always had an injury to show for it, yet from that point on, the blood sisters were back on speaking terms, at least for the most part. Later, when asked, Pamitha Thane admitted she felt as though she had no home to call her own. This is during an interview conducted amid the extensive trip abroad, where she had travelled thousands of leagues beyond the bounds of the Sarian Union. Pamitha continued to journey thus, citing that it reminded her of when she was younger and could fly unfettered. Faye? The Commonwealth had never provided a sense of home for the one they called Faye the Fair. She was so surprised on her return that she was so well treated. She felt uneasy about it, and besides, she knew that she would do her best to fulfill the pledge she had made to her friends. Even she could not have expected the impact she would have on the events that followed, which gave rise to our Sarian Union. Despite not fitting the image of any of the 8 scribes, Faye nonetheless stood out alongside the others amid the teeming masses on the night of the scribes' return. She spoke of the scribes with such conviction and sincerity that the crowd was very moved. After the fall of the Commonwealth, there was a renewed interest in the legend of the 8 scribes and many new interpretations of their histories and teachings. Faye found herself at the centre of all this. Her way of speaking continued to compel a growing audience. She swayed many people from their astralist beliefs. Soon the 8th word, which had lost favour with the people during the reign of the Commonwealth, sought her out and asked her formally to join, and she did right away. Throughout it all, she would wonder how her little friend Tizo had fared. While they were divided now by a great distance, he always remained in her heart. She cited her relationship with Jadariel as the single most important in her life. Jadariel would always provide for her a circumspect perspective and the wisdom of experience. Faye always was devoted to her faith, but more so to her friends. Many people in the Sarian Union cited that her gentle manner and unwearying conviction helped them brave the changing times with courage and grace. Alright, now people that didn't make it. Bertrude. Several exiles of the Nightwings cared more for the plan of Sandalwood than to return home from the downside. The crone called Big Bertrude was a prime example. She'd found a suitable environment to live within the dismal region known as Flagging Hands. There she'd built up a thriving place of business, known to many exiles in the land. But the rites having ended, she returned to her preoccupations, working away, almost as though nothing had happened. When one gets to be more than 400 years of age, perhaps then even monumental events such as the culmination of the rites or the collapse of the Commonwealth are seen as trifling matters. Much of her effort was doubtless due to the influence of Sandalwood, someone who she had admired now for decades. He had made clear that he could not requite her feelings for him, but what could be a hurtful dismissal only led to a deeper understanding between them. By and large, Bertrude kept focusing on her work, whether casting small enchantments or imbuing talismans. The work brought her a sense of purpose, she would say. In the Commonwealth, such services were strictly forbidden, but in the downside, there was a real need for simple luxuries, which the competing slug market could not always provide. Thus did Big Bertrude continue to live up to her name, and the tales of her days with the Nightwings made her that much more the living legend. When the cycle of rites ceased turning, Volfred Sandalwood turned towards the starless sky and closed his eyes and prayed. It was all he could do at that stage of his plan. He aspired to assemble with liberated exiles representing each of the 8 largest ethnic groups composing the population of the Commonwealth. They would stand together as a vision of the 8 scribes returned, inspiring the masses to embrace an older set of values from before the Commonwealth had tightened its grip. The rites ending sooner than expected, this ideal scenario became impossible. Sandalwood's own freedom, for instance, was now forfeit, yet the plan did have contingencies. Fortunately, most of the contingency did not prove necessary. Word reached him that, on the night of the scribe's return, his fellow liberated Nightwings stood together, and their voice echoed through the streets. These former exiles, who ought to have disappeared into the ranks of the Commonwealth's own leadership, now stood united with its people and poured from their homes in solidarity. It was imperative to Sandalwood that this stand against the Commonwealth, being peaceful in its nature, an overwhelming show of popular support would be more than enough. Ensuring this was his priority, and in the end, the result was self-evident. The plan's goal had been achieved. Sandalwood kept busy after that, as much as possible, providing counsel from afar to those who would be at the forefront of the birth of the Sarian Union. Of course, being stranded in the downside meant there was only so much he could do. Resting assured that the future of the nation was in capable hands, he turned his attention to the remaining exiles of the downside. They might never return to that new nation, but at least they could experience its triumphs and struggles in some vicarious way. So he took to his old work, writing and printing. As literacy began to spread again throughout the Sarian Union, so did the exiles of Downside take to it. For his part, Sandalwood helped to teach as many as he could. More than that, he provided the material to read, a semi-annual report about the latest events, both in the Sarian Union and in the Downside. This periodical gave many exiles something to look forward to. One of his allies in all this was the imp Tizo, with whom he travelled all across the Downside. Sandalwood often cited Tizo as the wellspring of his own enthusiasm for a brighter future. Such was the creature's spirit. He welcomed the company of the reader of the Nightwings at every opportunity, and counted him as a trusted friend and keen editor. As Volfred Sandalwood gained more fame throughout this land for his sacrifices and his contributions, it is said that he remained steadfast about 2 things. The first was that the cause itself ought to remain in focus. The freedom of the people had achieved. It was a gift to be cherished, a set of values that needed to be nurtured. A second point he made was that he himself had little to do with the outcome. He would often praise the exiles of the Nightwings who had stood with him, each in turn, by name. He never forgotten any of them. One day, to commemorate his birthday, the people of the Sarian Union unveiled a monument depicting him and the Nightwings as imagined in their prime. While Sandalwood did not learn of it until much later, it is said that he was moved to tears then by the gesture. It has since ensured that those of us with memories more fallible than that of Sandalwood likewise remember the achievements of his fellow former exiles, and our cause. We've still got all our opponents to talk to yet. We got Tizo. Once the rites had ended, the imp Tizo had a job to do. Quite unlike most exiles trapped forever in the Downside. The Lone Minstrel asked that he watch over the Black Wagon, which the Nightwings had used extensively for travel and for shelter all throughout their quest. Tizo obliged, for he knew that wagon, as well as its drive imp inhabitants, perhaps better than anyone. What became of the wagon exactly was never verified as evidence of Tizo's thorough work. After that, he liked to while away his days with any of his friends, or else with fellow imps. Sandalwood sometimes called for his assistance, and Tizo was always happy to oblige. The two would often reminisce about their times with the Lone Minstrel. He often chirped about the reader of the Nightwings, with whom he built quite a rapport. The reader understood him perhaps better than anyone. Indeed, Tizo would often express wistful gratitude for all his time with the Nightwings, and their many adventures throughout the land. It was always his home. Other than that, Tizo would sometimes help interpret for messenger imps relaying news to and from the Sarian Union. Despite having gained significant celebrity abroad, he never let it go to his head, and would go fishing in the Sea of Solace at every single chance he got. Nice. After the cycle of the rites ceased turning, records of what happened to the Black Wagon of the Nightwings became inconclusive and contradictory. Some accounts suggest that the exiles of the Nightwings, who remained in the downside, continued to make use of the Black Wagon as their place of shelter and their means of travel. However, there's no record of what happened to the wagon's contents, such as the Book of Rites, or the Beyonder Crystal, said to be haunted by the apparition of Sandra the Unseeing. One possibility is that when the Lone Minstrel took his leave, he took the Beyonder Crystal with him, for he was thus obliged. By this line of reasoning, however, the Black Wagon itself should have been taken also. Others remain skeptical that the Beyonder Crystal ever existed, or rather, that the visions that it granted were anything other than the result of an active imagination, or a fever dream. The bog dwellers of the southern bogs offer still another explanation, for they are familiar with binding enchantments. If there existed such an object in which the Sisters of the Arch had been expelled for more than 800 years, then the enchantment could have expired along with the light of the stars. What would this have meant for Sandra and the Beyonders is difficult to say for certain, other than it may have meant they were finally released. Nevertheless, the fate of Sandra and the Beyonder Crystal remain unknown. Yet those exiles of the Nightwings who claim to have seen this apparition all spoke of her with degrees of reverence, or perhaps a little fear. She was scary. Alright, our opponents. Let's start with Tamitha, since she got freed. As soon as possible after Tamitha Thane earned back her liberty, she rejoined her sisters of the Highwing remnants in the mountains north of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth believed that someone such as she could be rehabilitated through years spent in exile. Instead, her hatred for her ancient enemies only intensified. On the night of the scribe's return, the Highwing remnants were poised to strike the Commonwealth in a decisive blow. They'd received credible intelligence about the expected positions of the Commonwealth leadership, and of specific weaknesses in the Blood Border defences anticipated that night. After a surgical procedure, Tamitha could fly again, almost as well as prior to her exile. She insisted on spearheading the attack with a squadron of the Harp's finest. However, just as Tamitha's squadron prepared to crash down upon its foes, she received a signal to belay the attack order and return to the mountains. It appeared that the people of the Commonwealth were on the verge of achieving what the Highwing remnants were never able to accomplish. Ever dutiful, Tamitha obliged. Her sense of duty took priority above all else. Soon after the fall of the Commonwealth, Tamitha attended a debriefing in which her blood sister Pamitha was also in attendance. Tamitha was very skeptical that Pamitha could have played a beneficial role in the preceding events, and lashed out at her. Pamitha made no attempt to elude the attack and was struck full on. This cost Pamitha the use of her right wing. Yet after she recovered, she shrugged the incident aside, and said that maybe they could call it even now. From that point on, the Blood Sisters kept a formal distance, but were cordial with each other. After the rise of the Sarian Union, Tamitha Thane continued to serve as flight tactician, and remained respected and feared, even among her kind. However, without a war to wage, she grew more distant, even than usual. The closest to her surmised that her inability to reconcile with her blood sister was at the heart of this, though for her part, Tamitha never once admitted any such weakness. Alright, let's do some of the ones I actually give a shit about. Let's start with Barker. I'm curious. Barker Ashport never had much interest in returning to the Commonwealth, or he always found its bylaws to be stifling, so when the rites ended he didn't care at first. He soon grew very bored. The rites had given his life a certain sense of structure he had always needed. He missed the raw anticipation of it all. He decided to continue conducting the rites for the thrill of it. He bent some of the rules and replaced some of the objects, but it was close enough. His packmates, the dissidents, proved more than happy to participate, and thus they ran against each other back in Yormir Valley. Gradually, other exiles familiar with the rites, as well as those who had not heard of it at all, started to take an interest. They ended up giving Barker Ashport some healthy competition. His old feud with Rookie Greentail ceased, meaning anything to him, and he forgot all about it amid his new pursuits. Ultimately, even Barker Ashpors, who had led such a directionless existence to that point, found something of a calling through the rites. Whether he took the rites less seriously than any other exile of his time, or more, was oft debated by those who watched him work. How about this guy? I forgot his name. Dalbert. As the cycle of the rites drew to a close, it grew evident that a chance at freedom from the downside had forever slipped from Dalbert and Elmer Oldheart's grasp. Thus they and the exiles of the Fate returned to Yormir Valley. There they struggled to get by, as exiles of the downside tend to. Sometimes after the rites had ended, the Oldhearts at last heard news that the Commonwealth had fallen. This is well after the fact, of course, but it brought old Dalbert great joy. Despite his forthright manner, he had no love for the nation that cast him down, along with his son. Dalbert Oldheart passed peacefully in his sleep before the next new moon. In his final days, he implored his son to undertake a pilgrimage to the scribes. Alma never shared his father's view of the scribes, but respected Dalbert's wishes, and so, after a period of mourning, Alma began a new journey. Not a day went by that Alma Oldheart didn't think about his father, and give thanks to him, and speak to him at morning and at night. Would that the stars yet shone, for surely Dalbert would be there among them, smiling down at his son, and watching over him and his kin. Alright, let's go Ignarius. Once it became clear to Ignarius that the rites were drawing to a close, he knew that it was time for him and the Tempers to call it quits. But first, he and the Tempers decided to celebrate, and that they did for many, many nights. The revelry did eventually subside. The exiles parted amicably and went their separate ways. He roamed the downside then, searching for some meaning in his life, sometimes taking odd jobs requiring his brute strength. He never remained alone for very long, and took on many lovers in his time. However, he sometimes thought about the one he had called Curly Horns and what became of her. Though his glory days as the most powerful conductor of the rites had long since passed, he always enjoyed the fearsome reputation he had cultivated at that time. How about Sir Deluge? All his life, Sir Deluge had fled from one danger, only to find himself facing another. He had escaped the war-torn waters of the Sea Dominion, he had escaped the blood border of the Commonwealth, and now he had escaped the rites. After the rites had ended, many exiles wrapped up in the ancient tests were crestfallen, and their last chance to return to their homes vanished along with the stars above. But Deluge didn't mind, for the outcome meant that at last there was no burden of responsibility weighing down on him. While most of his fellow exiles of the Pyre Hearts yet longed for the waters of the Sea Dominion, driven as ever by their impulses towards conflict, Deluge settled down. With him remained one of his companions, one Lady Seagrass, who had taken a liking to him for some reason. Reportedly, they disappeared into the waters of the Worm Gulf, which may begin to explain the significant increase in worm population observed in the vicinity. Gross. After the cycle of the rites had ceased, Witch Udamildo returned to Flag in Hands region, where she sealed herself within the pit of Melithe. There, even her fellow exiles who had withdrawn allegedly grew unnerved after a time, and left her to her vile work. Sometime later, the pit of Melithe erupted into flames. So intense was the conflagration that it could be seen all the way from Yormir Valley. Arson was suspected, though the cause was never verified, and many bog dwellers in the region were forced to flee. A tempest blowing from the north finally quenched the flames. When at last the ashes settled and the grounds had cooled, the site of the fire was scarred beyond recognition. No trace of Witch Udamilde could be found. As for the contents of the pit of Melithe, which notably included a profane object thought to be the remains of Yislak, all of it was gone as well. Back in the Surian Union, Udamilde's repeated threats of the return of Yislak were thoroughly investigated, and no credence was found to any of her claims. Okay, these three douchebags. After the final liberation rite, Lendl refused to believe that the rites had truly ended. He would sit through night after consecutive nights, staring into the blackness of sky, awaiting any sign that he might gain another chance at freedom. No such sign ever came. His fellow accusers started to express concern for him. Survival had become their top priority once liberty had slipped from their grasp. But Lendl dismissed them as weak fools. He insisted rather forcefully that any evening now the stars would shine for him again and mark the way towards his inevitable freedom. He was, of course, mistaken. The others in his triumvirate were left with little choice but to abandon him. After that, the exile known as Lendl the Liar was never seen again. However, there have since been sightings of a bedraggled demon who wanders the downside and bears Lendl's cruel countenance, suggesting he yet lives. So he turned into a demon. This douchebag. When manly Tinderstauff realized that the rites had ended, and that he no longer could return to the Commonwealth through this ancient means, he was outraged. He cursed the scribes, spewing forth a slew of blasphemy, as to be very unbecoming of one of such high status and bearing. When at last he calmed himself, he focused all his energies on attempting to find another means of homecoming. He maintained regular contact with his wealthy family on the other side via messenger imp, and used their vast resource to explore other means of escape. He tried using an elaborate pulley system. He attempted to retrofit a flying black wagon with superior propulsion. He tried an imp raft, a hot air balloon, even prayer. Nothing worked. There was only one way to escape the downside, and now it was gone. Tinderstauff bankrupted his family in these vain attempts. At last, such was his shame that he retreated to the teeming woods of Black Basin, to Cinderroot. There he yet wallows, complaining of his comrades and of the chastity who still put up with him, either about his own misfortune or the latest news from the other side. After the shimmer pool closed for what would be the last time, Aurelek looked around him, in the flickering light of the Nightwing's still burning pyre. He then turned to the fall of Salayam and looked up toward the black starless sky. He cursed the 8 scribes then, one after the other. After that he strode forward, towards the waters coursing from the side of Mount Elodial, and without hesitating, he cast himself down. Aurelek's body was never recovered. The drop from Mount Elodial does not appear survivable, although Aurelek did survive it once. That time, however, he was filled with fury. Such was the betrayal he had suffered when his fellow exile claimed his rightful freedom. This time, Aurelek was filled with nothingness, and chose to leave the downside. In one way he knew he still could. The other Nightwings who were there to witness this never forgot what they saw. That's awful. There is one more account which warrants mention. The Nightwings conducted the rite under the guidance of a reader. Little is known of him. However, some accounts of him begin to paint a picture. We know he was of common birth, always directionless and prone to misremembering at times. The journey to the downside left him close to death. It was then that the Nightwings found him. They brought him from the brink and showed him the path. He pressed onward with the others. He had made a vow to help his friends be free, thus did the cycle of the rites commence its final turns. When the final rite arrived, the reader's freedom was at stake. In the end, however, he remained in exile. From that point on, accounts of him diverge. It is said the voice which troubled him, he never heard again. Some say he opted for a place to settle in the downside, though whether that's true, only he knows. Someday perhaps that reader's own star shall emerge. Then it shall pierce the dark of night, in all its brilliant glory, until such time, and ever after, all of us give thanks.
Their journey began on a barren waste where the reader arrived, afraid and alone. When he arrived, the book of rites awakened the Nightwings and ignited the flame. They follow the stars, bound together, strands in our brain till the end. We sing of the last of the Nightwings who, having broken the cycle, shall live on in song. Headwind prevailed and strode the path that his heart laid before him. He has found his way home. Captain Joe Dariel, mother to many a foundling, she has found
Well, that's it. Finally, we finished it. I might have to chop this. This has been going on for an hour and a half, so I probably have to chop this up into 2 or 3 episodes. Might even do the epilogue as a single episode. We'll see. We'll see what happens. What an amazing fucking game. Easily one of the best games I've played this year. Holy balls. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, because it is incredible and beautiful and amazing. And I'm curious to see what else changes depending on who gets free and who doesn't get free and all that sort of thing. And what happens if you free yourself instead of someone else, or Aurelek. Oh my god, there's so much to it. The writing is incredible, like really, really good. The fact that it can keep going no matter how people leave and come and go and whatever. Amazing. Alright, I'm going to leave you with this song in the end credits as per usual. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next series.
Sir Gilman the bold, ever in his
Epilogue dweller Bertrude.